close. Oh, I'm live. Great. Hi, team. Sorry, I'm so sorry. Welcome to Hair Daily Rhythm. I have never done this before, and it was kind of pretty effortless. So I'm just getting my screen up because I think I have to organize the chat. So I'm hoping we have some of our subscribers, but it's so nice to see you. Welcome to the podcast, Her Daily Rhythm. This is our first live, and the purpose of this community is we're really trying to build this up for you because I am sure you've heard me through our other episodes of the podcast, but this podcast started because we know so much now that women's bodies haven't been recognized in science for a very long time. And this matters if you are a man or anyone not in a woman's body, because you are impacted by women. So we need to share this knowledge so we can change policies, so we can help everybody that is in pain, because nobody should be in pain. And to end suffering is that we need to reach out to all of our neighbors and everybody like that. So her daily rhythm is built because we are cyclical beings. We're not linear beings, but we live in a world that is shaped by something that's not conducive for our bodies. So getting off my rant, I'm your host, Natalie Smythe. Welcome. So today we don't have a guest, so I thought it's nice. I ideally want to do these once a month, and as we build the community with our consistency and passion and all of the amazing experts that we've started to share with you across almost every continent, I'm so happy and about the deep passion of all of our practitioners from every realm. They're from Ayurveda. We've had a lot of Ayurvedic doctors. We've got a couple of TCM doctors coming up. So I'm really looking forward to those because we are coming into in the Northern Hemisphere spring, which is really important for that. And I'm going to speak about that today, as well as we've got a few medical doctors coming. So, and it's also been endometriosis month. So I've done a couple of talks and been within the community there. And, we're quite far behind, but when we can come into these groups and just share tips, and because everybody is not walking the same path, right? Everybody has a different experience, a different angle for something, and just to be seen and heard and be in a space of this rhythm helps so much. So without further ado, because I can go on a real tangent, I'm just putting up my little notes here, but I suppose we are speaking about spring today because we are, where I'm from, most of us are in the Northern Hemisphere. I'm so sorry for my Australian friends, but we will get to you. But, I look at everything through, I'm a functional medicine practitioner and a practitioner and a naturopath. So I look through the Western framework, but I'm always piecing together Ayurveda and TCM because, and traditional practices and with the science. That's really what we're doing here, because we need to have that integrative approach. We can't have silos anymore. That's why where we are. And I just love that the research is just getting better and better. We've got funding opportunities, which is great. We have Femtech, and my partner from FemVed, they are a Femtech firm. So without Femtech, we would be really far behind because of the research is going into women's bodies. So it's really helping in that way. So spring, it's not simply a change in weather. It's in Ayurveda and Chinese medicine. It is one of the most physiologically significant transitions of the year because it's a moment when the body really attempts to shed what has been stored up over the winter. And so you've got the digestive fire rekindling again. Your hormonal intelligence is kind of coming online. And so this is our chance to really restore our deepest vitality because I speak about all the time, we are nature. I wish you could see outside my window, but it's so beautiful because, we always think in our world too that we have to be striving all the times, but we know our bodies aren't like that because in a 28 cycle for a woman, we have 4 phases, 4 stages, which I'll go on to speak about. And sometimes I get frustrated and it's like, "Oh, things aren't going well," or I'm really struggling right now." But I have these incredible trees out my window and they just remind me is that, they're not in bloom yet. You can't be in bloom all the time. You need to rest and restore. So that's what winter has been doing. We have less digestive fire and we're drawn to more of those heavier foods. That's what nature provides us, right? I've actually just done a women's health retreat in Iceland and it's snowing. And most of the time of the year it is snowing there. They don't grow any of these spring foods. They don't grow any of these leaves. They grow root vegetables. They grow fatty fish to keep their bodies warm, to keep their bodies strong, because that's what they need, because that's what they're working with in nature. And so when we were eating what is in our natural environment, how the leaves, the fresh produce is influencing us, then we're in alignment. I've started getting a natural food box delivery, a seasonal food box delivery, and it's amazing how also the adjustments of the food that you receive each week, right? I am just checking the chat because I thought I'd got a notification. Excuse me. No, I didn't. Um, so yeah, so that's the importance of acknowledging the seasons and that we have these gifts of seasons to remind us that we are the microcosm and the macrocosm, which I always speak about. Um, and so at this point, it's a great reflection time. We've just officially had spring equinox, which was on the weekend. So it's really questioning in we've got a nice 2-week window to really go deep within ourselves and ask ourselves the question, what has winter stored in me, and what am I ready to release? We have much more water nourishment, don't we? So consider what patterns, habits, foods, or emotional residue you have been carrying since the darker months. Because spring, it doesn't demand that you purge everything at once. We have to remove this notion of going completely full on and drastic. It's the subtle incremental changes that changes your whole world, and anything that you do, it's incremental. So spring, it asks you to become just a little more conscious and begin moving gently but deliberately in the direction of renewal. The seeds are starting just to glimmer, right? And so the menstrual cycle is one of the most reliable vital signs that we have as women. It's rhythm, its quality, and its consistency. It tells you exactly what is happening in your body. It is a report card of how you've operated in the last 28 days. And spring is the ideal time to observe it a little bit more closely because the liver's capacity to metabolize hormones directly shapes your cycle's regularity, its period quality, and its overall function. So whenever I'm having a call with Aditi, founder of FemVed, or whenever we're having our calls, because we are working with cycles, we have to practice what we preach, right? We ask each other, what day are you on? And I think it's a really helpful thing to start knowing what day you're on, because you start to observe your temperature changes better. You notice if you have clots, or if there's pain or inflammation, or if your breasts become more tender. All of these are signs of a hormonal imbalance or hormonal irregularity of something that was up, whether you were eating more sugar in your diet, there was more inflammation, or you were experiencing more stress, or you haven't been eating right. This is a report card, and the best report card that you could have as a direct correlation to your health. So really get intimate with your menstruation. And I know in our society, it's taught that it's such a burden, and most of us are experiencing pain, but get inquisitive into the pain and start asking why. So in those 4 phases of the menstrual cycle that we have menstrual, we have the follicular, the ovulatory, we're ovulating and luteal. And so that really mirrors the seasons of the year. So follicular, straight after menstruation, so about day 6 to day 13, that maps to spring because your estrogen is rising, your energy increases, and the body is preparing for ovulation. So, I'm not going off too much on a tangent, but I thought it's important to mention. Particularly, we're always striving to look for ways to biohack, right? And we know that fasting for women is not healthy all the time, but in this follicular stage, so day 6 to day 13 is an optimal time to be fasting for women. Um, about 12 to 16 hours is the sweet spot. However, unfortunately, it's better to do it to start your fasting window in the evening because in the morning we do need that protein, particularly if you're from 35 years of age. It's really, really, really important to have protein first thing in the morning, um, to help with the cortisol as well. So, I would say maybe if you can, having an early dinner, stopping about 7 p.m., and then you have a nice fasting window just in follicular stage this spring. And so if we're looking at that Ayurvedic lens, right? So what depletes your Ojas? What how can you tell that your body is depleted after winter, right? We've got chronic sleep deprivation, we've got chronic stress, you're overworking, you're overexercise, you're not recovering properly, you have poor digestion and accumulated ama. So this metabolic waste that builds up. So that's how you can maybe get when you wake up in the morning just a little bit achy. That's a sign that there is an imbalance or there's this metabolic waste buildup. Your lymphatic isn't flowing optimally. Um, and unprocessed emotional burden. This really isn't spoken about, but you know, when your friends, your loved ones, they're processing emotional or not in a good mood without even saying anything, So just by someone entering a room and having like you can feel their energy, right? So if you can feel their energy, then that must be affecting things inside. So, seasonal neglect, ignoring the body's cyclical needs. This is kind of what restricts our bodies and our cycles and everything moving properly. So, what rebuilds the system as we come into spring from an Ayurvedic perspective? We do want to be not having any cold food still yet because our body is excreting waste. It's building up its digestive fire. It's been really slow over the weekend. The weekend? I'm sorry. Over the winter, we want consistent, warm, easily digestible foods that honor the season. Particularly Ayurveda and traditional medicine is no cold, no ice. It's shocking to your body. I love the analogy of, when you're doing the washing up, right? And you're doing the washing up with cold water, it's not getting rid of all of the dirt and the stickiness. We wash with hot water, and look what happens. The same is true of our bodies. The hot water is the same bodily temperature. It moves things. Also, if there's any bacteria or viruses going on constantly, there's the external world is signaling with us. So we want to do things that work with our body tissues. So hot water is a really simple one, but I can guarantee you'll notice a difference within a week. Abhyanga, my favorite, self massage with warm oil. This nourishes your tissues and calms the nervous system. I've been doing this consistently, so 4 days a week since November. I have noticed such a difference in my skin. It feels like baby soft. And also, sometimes you can get those bumps on just behind the back of your arms. I mean, if they're really bad, that's a sign of like a vitamin A deficiency. But if they're just, a little bit bumpy and not as soft as you want, the oil massage, I'm telling you, will change your life. My skin is amazing. And I must say, I have actually been using Medula, which is a beautiful, beautiful Ayurvedic brand made by a mother and daughter with a recipe from their grandmother. So it's been in their lineage for such a long time. So I've just started using this one, and I'm so lucky. I'm going to be interviewing them in a couple of weeks just to hear their story, their recipes. The mother is an Ayurvedic consultant and practitioner. So and they're so beautiful and passionate. So putting the oil on your body, warming it up to really get within that tissues, because it's certainly nourishing for your tissues as well. And we really do need to be ensuring that our sleep is completely adequate before 10 o'clock as well. Time in nature. Listen to the birds, have peace, ground your body. We know what happens when we ground our feet into the earth. We let go. I don't think we realize how often we're up here, and particularly as women, like when do you let go? Like, we've been told to hold in our belly, hold in everything. Stress happens. We're getting these micro stresses all the time, and that builds up. So really going into nature, placing your feet on the earth and actually listening to the birds without your phone can shifts your biology literally in 5 seconds. It's amazing. So really focusing on reducing this sensory overload, less screen time and more stillness. So when we look at the lens of traditional Chinese medicine, in Chinese traditional medicine, it works seasonally as well, and it corresponds to a pair of organs, an element quality for each seasonal cycle. So when we come into spring, TCM represents wood element, and its organs are the liver and the gallbladder. So very similar to functional medicine, which I'm going to speak to you about, but wood is the energy of upward movement, right? It's new growth, it's shooting new seeds, it's decisive, it's action. It's like a tree pushing roots, pushing through frozen ground. Wood wants to expand and create. And so when it's balanced, it feels visionary, it's flexible, it's purposeful. But when it's obstructed, and contracted after winter, it becomes rigid, it becomes frustrated, irritability, physical tension. So we want to be thinking of ourselves like the willow or bamboo, so strong, but so malleable, so creative. So if we're looking at what stagnation can look like in the springtime through the lens of TCM, it looks like PMS, particularly breast tenderness, irritability, and mood swings before your period. And I think this one, goes a little bit unnoticed of, okay, I have tender breasts, but like that's normal. It's a sign of stagnation, right? So there's things that you can do about it. And I notice for me in particular, like some months it's like I've got a boob job, like they're so tender and have really increased in size, and like sometimes I kind of like it, but no, that's an indication of okay, where's the stagnation here? Where is the inflammation? We need to do things moving. Or where did you go too hard? I usually notice that when I'm doing, I love hot yoga and excess saunas, but it's finding the balance too, because, as I start to encroach my 40s, I really need to make sure that I'm really nourishing my body in these ways. And so also in TCM, your body is it looks at your organs as a body clock. So notice the patterns of when you're waking up. Are you waking between 1 to 3 a.m.? So this is the liver's peak time in TCM, and that means that, okay, there could be a little bit of stagnation. We need to move through that. We need to support it with all of our beautiful foods. A big sign is tension across the shoulders, jaws, or between the eyebrows. That's a tricky one because I know a lot of us are kind of like trying to have a burrowed eyebrow, but noticing how often you do that can really help. Digestive bloating, particularly after meals or under stress. I know it's normal. in society, but it's not normal. It's a sign. Skin congestion, spots around the jawline and chin. That's another sign that you have this liver qi stagnation in spring. So I mentioned that the gallbladder is really important when we're coming into TCM as well. Sorry, can you see that block? I've just got the sun coming in. And it's giving me a bit too much of a nasty reflection, though I do love it. There we go. I think that's okay. So in TCM, the gallbladder governs decision making and what it's called as the gallbladder courage. So it's the chief commander. It's the capacity to act on the liver's vision. So when the gallbladder is weak or congested, we know that we know what we want, but we can't move forward. And that's hesitation, self-doubt, and then the inability to commit are clinical indicators of a gallbladder imbalance. So spring is the optimal season to strengthen both these organs through the diet and the quality of choices that we make about our own lives. So there's always the emotional, physical, and mental element when we're through the lens of our bodies. It's all interrelated. So the liver, now we're coming into my field, so functional medicine, naturopathy, where we're talking about the liver. We always want to be working with the liver, but it comes more online now. Exactly what our traditional medicine practices have shown us. So the liver performs 500 distinct functions every single moment in the context of women's health. It's the most clinically relevant role in hormonal detoxification. It is so important. When we are speaking about a menstruation, our hormones, we cannot exclude the liver and the gut. So specifically, how the liver works is it has this two-phase process by which our estrogens are broken down. They're come into as a toxic form, they're conjugated and then safely eliminated, right? Into a fat soluble to water soluble and then excreted. It can't just be a fat soluble and miss that excretion. So when this process is impaired, estrogen then recirculates through the body. And so then it's making the blood sticky. It's picking up other enzymes. And so that's what drives conditions like estrogen dominance, fibroids, endometriosis, heavy periods, PMS, and these breast tissue changes too, which can lead to other disorders. So what I believe is a toxin is anything that stands in your way of your full potential. So it can be an emotional block, it's situational, a food, a certain environment, so that anything is blocking you from feeling the flow and feeling empowered to be your best, right? And so your liver is also detoxifying your emotions. So you have those phase ones, that phase two, where those compounds come in, and then you need certain minerals and vitamins to keep that process going, because if you don't have these essential minerals and vitamins and you're not making the sulfuric acid and your amino acids specifically, your hormones are going to recirculate, and that's when we get these problems. So the liver cannot complete detoxification as well without the gut. So beta-glucuronidase, an enzyme that is produced by an imbalance in microbiome, can allow estrogens in the intestine to be reabsorbed rather than excreted. So think about it, your gut is really sitting along your uterine and affecting all of your organs too. They're all on top of each other, and they're just through this really delicate tissues that's always communicating with each other. So there's always going to be a knock-on effect. And so that's why it's so important to support gut health. It's completely inseparable when we're speaking about hormonal balance. So we want high fiber, plant-rich, spring eating works on both of our systems simultaneously, right? So my lovely things, I'm just wondering, I can't see. Gosh, we're going, it's 20 minutes already. I've tried to not talk so much, but so I'm going to give you my little spring food protocol, integrating all of the frameworks that we've spoken about. So we've touched on Ayurveda, TCM, and functional medicine. And when we're speaking about spring, when we're working with the liver, our tastes, our sensations is bitter, astringent, and pungent taste. So they're the foods that we should be eating that works on supporting our liver and removing metabolic waste. Sour and green foods. So this moves your liver chi in TCM. And then in functional medicine, and working on that phase 2 part of detoxification, we really want to be focusing on incorporating cruciferous vegetables and sulfur-rich plants that support phase 2 detoxification, right? So our foods to emphasize is bitter greens, really like that dark greens. And also I speak about this a lot, but if we look at traditional diets, the way that they ate was with the seasons and everything had a process, right? In Italy, you have the bitter greens, you have the arugula, you have rocket before eating. It's a bitter green. They have dandelion. Dandelion grows like crazy all over the UK and Europe, and I'm sure in other places. But we look at it like a pest. But actually, it's nature's food, and it's one of the best superfoods that you have, and it's growing everywhere. So I would look at foraging for that, but just making sure that you know exactly what it looks like and somewhere away from where dogs are as well. So bitter greens, dandelion, rocket, watercress, chicory. It stimulates the bile flow, supporting phase 1. And this also helps with reducing kapha accumulation in Ayurveda. And so the cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, kale, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, they contain DIM and sulforaphane to support estrogen metabolism. They're so important. We really need those. But oftentimes, a lot of us might be having thyroid like metabolic thyroid issues if we do have hormonal imbalance. So please get tested. So in that case, you really need to make sure that your cruciferous vegetables, your brassicas, are cooked. And we want to be focusing on our garlic, our leek, our spring onions. They're rich in sulfur for our phase 2 sulfur pathways too. Seasonal fruits, what's in season, right? Because our microbiome of the food is also changing, and that is impacting our internal microbiome of what it needs, right? So apples, they have the skins contain quercetin. What is happening in spring, right? It's when allergies arise. So all of the foods around you are protecting you for the season. So things like apples, pears, berries, pomegranate, it's high in polyphenols and the fiber for that liver gut access. It's so important. We want to be having light grains, particularly when we're looking at Ayurveda too. So quinoa, barley, basmati rice. It's much easier on digestion to reduce that kapha, that heaviness from the winter. And legumes, so mung beans, lentils, chickpeas, and these are great for that protein, for glutathione synthesis. It's fiber for estrogen excretion. Always making sure that you're soaking them really well to move any phytic acids or anything that is not digestible. And now is the time to really support our digestion, reduce any inflammation, and get that chi moving through warming spices. So turmeric, cumin, coriander, fennel, ginger. Ginger and lemon in your water in the morning is really wonderful as well. So not just having the lemon, and having warm water and herbal teas, like I mentioned. So dandelion root, milk thistle, nettle, CCFT is a favorite, and that really supports the liver and is anti-inflammatory. And so, you know, it's quite obvious what we need to reduce, because you're less inclined to crave them. But it's like reducing excess dairy, because it creates like mucus and slows digestion. Heavy cold or processed foods, because that dampens our acne, our digestive fire, and impairs liver enzyme activity. Alcohol, it directly burdens phase one. Excess red meat, because it raises beta glucuronidase activity in the gut. So if you are having it, have a lot of fiber with it. Obviously, reducing sugar, because that drives inflammation and dysbiosis and weakens that gut liver axis. Iced or cold drinks, like I mentioned, it completely suppresses your digestive fire. So favor that warm temperature. And then lastly is what are some supplements that we can have? So always, this is not medical advice, always check with your practitioner, your doctor, but some things, particularly since we're talking about hormones and to help with that excretion, is milk thistle is one of my favorites. Its Latin name is Silimarin. It's its action is not to detox the liver, but mainly to protect and regenerate liver cells. So it's really important. So if you are going to a party, or you know you're going to eat lots of stuff or have alcohol, have milk thistle before, and it will be really protective. Now, a really important one is DIM. So it promotes healthy estrogen metabolism, and reduces those metabolites that can cause all of the nasty symptoms that I've mentioned. Like I mentioned, it's in your cruciferous vegetables, but I'm sure you're not having enough. So this is really important if you are having any of those symptoms. Calcium D-glucuronidase, it inhibits this beta-glucuronidase in our gut and supports estrogen excretion via the gut. So that's also an important one, but you need to speak to your practitioner about that. Glutathione, NAC, it's our master antioxidant. It's essential for phase 2 detox and reducing our oxidative burden, and where we don't make our master antioxidant from age 30. So that's really important. A B complex methylated is really important. It's a critical cofactor for methylation and phase 2 pathways, particularly B6, 9, and 12. We aren't getting enough of it at Bs unless you are only eating fruit and vegetables and ensuring that the quality is organic. I used to not think that you needed a B, but I'm giving it now almost always in clinic. Dandelion root tea is a really lovely tonic. It's a bitter liver tonic. It stimulates bile flow, and it has a gentle phase 1 support daily. So that's a really nice one to have. And nettle, I really like to have that too. It's also nice, cool as well. So how we transition is how well we adapt to this season. So I've spoken about what we can do physically, but if you're doing all the right things and your environment isn't conducive to the change in seasons, that's not going to help either. So what are you doing with your oral hygiene? Now's a great time to change toothbrushes, change toothbrush heads. If you haven't, we should be kind of changing them every 6 months. Oil pulling, I love. Maybe a mouthwash with a nice salt water as well, because salt has its own microbiome. At home, check and change your bedding, flip the bed, wash your pillows, recirculate the distribution of air too. We really kind of wet dusting is a really great one with all of that dust, because it all has microbes and it all has like all of everything that can burden our liver as well. So that was a whistle stop tour of what to do this spring. I really hope it helped you. We didn't have too many people online, but please share what you'd like to know more of, how we can help you where you are as well. Because truly, the purpose of our lives is to encourage and promote the body's natural self-healing mechanisms, to realize that we are the microcosm inside the macrocosm, to purify our internal systems to reflect our outer world. We need to believe in ourselves, and we need to find purpose. And I think spring is the perfect time to do that, because it's the astrological new year, new life, new growth, new vitality. So thanks so much. And I can't wait to see you next week. It's the end of March, so I'm going to be doing a wrap up on endometriosis month. And then after that, we have a great speaker. So thank you so much. Please share what you liked, what you loved. This is Natalie Smythe from Her Daily Rhythm. Bye for now.